Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
This week we serve the trust, protect the innocent, and uphold the law in Paul Verhoeven's 1987 film, Robocop!
Oh my god, let's dive in. Well, for any of you guys who decided to stick around after that horrible thing, this is Deep Dive Film School. Please like and subscribe. I'm Adam Sherlock.
I'm Adam Pulcher, and you know what? Hey,
Sometimes you gotta give it a little gusto, give it a little.
It was my robot Robocop voice turned into the singer of the B-52s, Fritz Snyder.
Yep.
Robocop,
it isn't,
baby.
It isn't a Robocop.
It isn't a robe.
It's a Robocop. Oh my god. All right. So anyway, we are now entering our fourth and usually final installment of our film festivals. We usually end them at 4. Paul Verhoeven is one of the one of those lucky few who has made enough masterpieces to warrant an entire festival, as well as the Punishment Review, which we'll be doing next week.
Yes. Of
Showgirls.
what? Yes.
Showgirls. But for now, we are going to get
for that.
Yes, and so that will be the bottom of the barrel. This week we are going to review the top of the barrel with, what is it again? Say it one more time.
Robocop, baby. Written by Ed Neumeier, and I've mentioned him before because he does every single Robocop property.
Oh, that's right. He's the one
from beginning to end, even up till the remake in, I believe it was 2014-ish, somewhere around there, and another Robocop movie that has been, I think it's Robocop Reboot or something. I can't remember, but they're doing something new like this year with it.
Wow.
And I guarantee he is the man behind pushing a Terminator versus Robocop movie, which I'm actually surprised hasn't happened yet.
I'm quite surprised that hasn't happened yet. Really quick, did you ever see the reboot, the Robocop that has the dude from what was it? The following?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
I think I did. It's not memorable. I felt the same way about the Total Recall reboot. Which
like all
Colin Farrell.
Well, all humor is stripped out of it. All kind of like the really quirky character development that makes Verhoeven's movie so good. Seems like all that stripped away. And it's interesting. I mean, I kind of feel it's like...
they added a bunch more backstory in that one too, I believe. With the family and the son, because it's really pretty limited in this movie as far as like you get some cuts of memories and stuff like that, but
we never meet them or anything. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, so don't you feel like it's kind of and it's funny that it's Ed Neumeier because it makes me feel the same way as the pretty common critique of George Lucas, where it's like once he went back and started messing around with Star Wars again, there was this really interesting thing where it was like, oh, he doesn't know why people love this thing that he made, right?
Very
like
true.
in his head, he's like, it's a robot and a cop. And to everyone out there who loves this movie is like, it's like all the, socio-political commentary in it. It's all of the great sort of like world building in it. It's the idea of what would happen if a corporation took over a public service, right? It's like all these layers and layers. And Ed Neumeier, it seems to not understand that and just be like, in the third one, he's going to have a jetpack, right? In the second one, he's going to have a motorcycle.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, how different is that from something like Batman, you wonder? Not much. Totally. I remember the VHS that my parents had. The tagline was "Half man, half robot, all cop."
All cop. Yeah.
And so that always intrigued me, and I always loved this movie. Verhoeven, he loves messing with people's memories a lot. I've noticed. And he also loves taking scripts on that have been rejected by multiple writers and directors. It seems like every time I review one of his movies or do research into them, that is on all of them. And it's over this festival, I don't know if I've gained respect or lost respect for him as a director, because for the most part, like, he does some shitty stuff, and he has some terrible excuses to why he did stuff. It's campy and it's fun to us because we grew up in the 90s. And this was a movie that was important in the 80s and 90s. It's just like, it's kind of funny, though this movie is his best movie by far. Maybe not by far. I really like Starship Troopers. But I'm sure we'll get into this more next week when we talk about Showgirls. But just some of his reasoning and the stuff he lets go is just like, yeah, that's clever. Like, just the fact that the corporate cops are OCP, which is just cop mixed around.
It's Omni Consumer Products, Adam.
Sure it is. Yeah, I know. Anyways, also his first American film. And one of his tropes comes out here, which I found is his tropes after watching these all in a row, is this kind of quick news update of the world we're in, right? Setting the exposition up for the world. Does this ton in Starship Troopers. Total Recall has this as well. Anyways,
these ones are definitely they're the very first thing we see. We get a huge title card. Dun, 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 like big metal title card coming at you. And then right after that, boom, the first newscast. And it's such a great world building technique that if you do it right and you have the right kind of production values for it, it can be so much fun. And it doesn't feel like an exposition dump. And again,
I agree. Totally.
For whatever reason, Verhoeven is so deft at that in particular of setting up a really quite a complicated world, and this one is probably almost as complicated as Total Recall in terms of we have old Detroit. Basically, all the corporations are pulling out of it. They're interested in building this new conglomerate fake city, right, called Delta City. Basically, build it kind of over old Detroit and push all that out of the way.
Everything's growing up.
Yep. And then you've got all these, billion-dollar corporations that are essentially trying to buy up the services within this city. And one of the biggest ones that they're looking at is the police department, right? Because you've got things are so bad in old Detroit that and it's so interesting watching it this time and realizing I remember back in the 80s when I first saw this, what a crazy futuristic idea it was.
Yeah, his ideas.
That police officers needed to wear body armor. Think that this idea, nowadays it's the cops in 2020 in our reality look even more hardcore than the cops of New Detroit do. But back in the 80s, it's they still kind of looked like officer friendly, right?
In the movies, in the movies, it's kind of sad that Verhoeven thinks Showgirls is actually the most realistic movie about contemporary America he's ever made.
Maybe it was in the late 90s. I don't know.
We'll get that. We'll get to that next week. But this is a amazing movie. It's really well done. There's parts that I've always had problems with, I guess. But the overall, and this is kind of the summation of Verhoeven, I think, it's something I mentioned in the first episode of this festival. But he is lazy on some things, and it's never going to be perfect. But the ideas are great, and most of the time, the execution is really great.
Right
here, the idea is so good that we're in this dystopian Detroit that you talked about. We have this 24-hour day police officer with Ed 209, the full Robocop, and you get the corporate cops in here and everything goes to hell.
Well, one of the interesting things about that, I think, is, again, like I was saying, it's actually a fairly complex idea, except that Verhoeven does this great thing where he follows the new kid, right, Bob. He follows Bob.
Murphy.
Well, no. I'm talking about the corporate world.
Gotcha.
We follow Bob.
Miguel Ferreira. Amazing that guy.
Yeah,
Did you know? always a great douche as well. I always remember him from Traffic.
Yes, he's so good at Traffic.
Did you know he's George Clooney's cousin? I found
What?
that out today. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I think he also passed away just last year.
He did last year. Sad news. Awesome
But so
actor,
we
though.
follow Bob up in the elevator, and we're getting sort of these like high-level corporate machinations as we reveal this big kind of boardroom scene and that's where we first meet Dick Jones, of course played by the always incredible Ronnie Cox, who we saw in Total Recall. And then we also meet the old man, right? And so, but we could have done this scene in any other way to explain this is the corporation, this is OCP, they're trying to buy out the police department, they're trying to replace them with robots, right? But instead, we get one of the funniest scenes in this movie and one of the most gallows humor funny scenes in my opinion, in any kind of like action movie, like the Ed 209 failure of blowing up the new kid is like one of the funniest things. It is so awful.
It is definitely a simulation failure like I've never seen.
Yeah. And we have the old man go, Dick, I'm very disappointed. There's
really?
blood
A guy
everywhere.
was just murdered.
Very disappointed.
I mean, the human life means nothing to them. It's part of the process, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's just, he
well, and
doesn't
it gives Bob the in for the Robocop, right? I mean, it starts the entire plan there. So that's actually story B. But do you want to do story A of Murphy really quick?
I mean, we have levels of bad guys going on in that scene.
Yes.
There's not many good people in this movie. But yeah, the A storyline is following Murphy, who's kind of comes into this wild ass police station in Delta City, and basically welcome to hell is what they say in the movie because this place is nuts. Anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting. Also thought it was interesting African-American chief and mayor in this movie, which I thought was pretty progressive for 1987. You don't
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
But we get to Murphy. He gets this pretty girl as a partner, and they kind of flirt a little bit. But he's got a family.
Oh, Nancy Allen.
Yeah,
I mean,
sweet.
I ever since the original De Palma's Carrie, I've always had a thing for Nancy Allen.
Right.
Now, I will say that in the sort of introduction, the Welcome to Hell scene, and again, we get this great thing where it's basically like right away, people don't like Murphy because he's coming in to replace a police officer who was just murdered, and then his partner was in the ICU, and when they go into the locker room, they actually pull his name tag off because he died also, right? And you get this impression where it's like the kind of nebbish second in command that has the box to collect all the stuff from his locker.
Yeah.
He's like, now, proceeds for the funeral go to the family like always. And it makes you realize like, oh, these cops are dying like left and right, right?
Churning over, which begs the question, and I think someone even asks is, why did you transfer to this paradise? And we don't really ever get an answer to that. I kind of wish we did a little bit, outside of maybe it's his family, but maybe it's the same reason that Brad Pitt had in Seven or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you just transferred to the pit of hell. Before we leave this scene, I did want to mention really quickly, this locker room scene is our first look at what would later become the shower scene of non-sexuality in Starship Troopers. We have male and female cops dressing and undressing together without any sexual harassment or oogling of each other. They're just they're all totally equal, and they're all getting suited up to go out there and work.
No nudity though.
No, there is. There's a couple of topless women.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. I think it's just overall less titillating, but still I was like, oh, that's really interesting. It's kind of the same thing.
Titillating, you had to do that.
I mean, listen.
So Murphy gets called to a robbery, and him and his partner show up, and Rhett from that 70s show shows up.
Dude, Clarence Boddicker is one of the best bad guys, in my opinion, kind of ever. I love him so much. I think he is so cool.
And this is actually my problem with the movie. I hate him in this role.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It's so hard for me to, one, take him seriously, and two, I don't know. He looks more like my dad than a mafia boss.
That's what makes him so good, I think, is that like he's
If they would have
smart
gotten
and
rid of
he's...
the if they would have gotten rid of the glasses or something, maybe you would see more. But the bad guys in this movie kind of bother me throughout. They're like Roadhouse level bad guys.
Oh my God, you think? I love the bad guys here.
This has always been my problem with. I mean, they might as well be out of Rumble in the Bronx or something like. It's just like, I don't know. To me, this has always been my problem with this movie. So,
you just blew my mind. I think Clarence Boddicker is one of the funnest villains. I think I love. I love the way that he chomps scenery. I love that he doesn't look like your average bad guy. I love the way in which, and this was my first introduction to him, other than he also plays the father of the kid who kills himself in Dead Poets Society. He did all of that way before that 70s show. And I absolutely loved him in that. And
I love him too. I think he's fine, but like it's hard for me sometimes to get past it a little bit. Once I am, he is fun. Wow. He is kind of a hoo-ha villain at points, which can be fun, but like for the most part, I'm just like,
I'm on the totally opposite side of that. He's one of my favorite parts of this movie. I absolutely love Clarence Boddicker. I want to see a Clarence Boddicker. I want to see a Clarence Boddicker origin story movie, and I want Michael Shannon to play a younger Clarence Boddicker.
Yes, now we're talking.
And have the exact same balding Jufro with the dad glasses. I love that character.
I agree. He doesn't seem like a traditional bad guy, and I appreciate the uniqueness, but it took me out of it a bit.
Wow.
So
couldn't disagree more. And the other bad guys here, you have a murderer's row of villains, man. You have the dad from Twin Peaks. You have the doctor from ER that plays Emil. And he also is the really creepy villain from the X-Files that always has to lay in the saline solution or whatever it is, or iodine. No, he has to sleep in iodine.
And then you have the black guy of Mind If I Zip It Up, that guy.
I love it. I think there's such a fun comic book style group of villains that you actually you know them when they show up. They're not just faceless bad guys for Robocop to mow down.
I agree. That's why it depresses me more, because I do know and like all of them as actors. I guess I don't know the black guy as much, but for the most part, I do know who they are. So I'm just like, I mean, it's cool, but it just gets so bombastic and silly.
So disappointed in you. So disappointed.
That's okay. You can be disappointed in me.
All right. So let's get to where Murphy meets this group.
Unload 30 rounds on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, pretty sure he was dead. I mean, first they blow his hand off.
That's rough. That is rough. I remember rewinding that numerous times as a kid just to be like, does it look fake before they explode it? Oh, yeah. This is I mean, I'd say next to The Thing, I'd say this is some of his best work.
I agree. When he takes his helmet off eventually,
it
looks so good.
Wild. It's so hard to see the seams.
I couldn't see it. I thought it was great.
It's just incredible looking.
Yeah, no. Anyways, I love seeing this perspective as he's basically getting murdered here. That we get those flashbacks when he's doing this, and this happens again when he's coming back to life as Robocop. We kind of get those like little
it's like this scrambling of his memory and of parts of his identity, right? I mean, his identity is fairly pure as he's dying, essentially, and it made me think of the old was it Powell and Pressburger, A Matter of Life and Death,
where you get the POV of him kind of coming to birth, but they're all wasted before because it's finally working, and you get this small glimpse of him as they reveal him on TV once he wakes up, which I thought was awesome as well.
Just that little sliver of it as it goes by. Yeah,
and it's great. Yeah, so I don't know, but you know, he gets introduced to the world. Bob is the new head honcho now, or at least he's up in the executive ranks. He's raising the ranks here. He has a very lavish life through this movie.
Oh yeah, very much.
He definitely is living the dream, apparently.
Well, and what I think is really interesting about that is that I feel like a lesser movie would give us like a wacky inventor. Like even if you think about like in Star Trek Next Generation, when there were Data episodes where Data like met his maker or whatever, his maker was basically the same Brent Spiner, the same actor with like crazy hair, and he's like in a laboratory, right? And you're like, well, no, actually, this is exactly what it would be like, which is there is no Frankenstein meets his, father kind of moment. Instead,
Yeah.
what it is Bob's just the corporate guy who had the idea, hired like 500 different
team,
scientists to build him. And so there's no moment where as Murphy's life starts to become unraveled to him that he says, "Oh, well, I got to go meet the guy who built me," or whatever, right? Like that never takes place. He's corporate property.
Yeah,
right?
I don't even know how conscious he is of that, right? I think he's probably created not to think that, but he does get these flashes of memory. We even get his old partner, this is the stuff that I love that makes this movie so good, is just kind of the little things, like she notices how he holsters his gun. Like,
TJ Laser.
There was a story of that about TJ Laser.
TJ Laser. Yeah. Can you do that, Dad?
Yeah. And so just those little things that he does, even in the small amount of time we actually get him as a real person, they actually do a really good job of structuring out the little reveals of his life going over this. I thought it was really well done. He goes on his first beat with no partner, and he hits up this convenience store robbery, which is awesome. And that's where we get, I'd buy that for $1. That guy, right. Which is the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, doesn't it almost feel like it almost feels like I'm thinking of in Idiocracy when they have Ass the movie, right? And it's like Ass the movie, and it's just like butt cheeks, and they go right, and the people are like dying, they're laughing so hard at it, and you go, yeah, because it's gotten that stupid. And I'd buy that for $1 is very much in the same vein, where it's like, it's this one schlubby guy that for whatever reason keeps, it's almost like, it almost has like a Robert Crumb vibe to it, where he's like the little nebbish guys with the big glasses that like is just like sex obsessed. And then like they keep like, like, well, I'll take a bath together. And he's like, right? And you're like,
oh, it's so
that's
bad.
the level of...
But it's on the same level as something we did in our political fiction festival, like Wag the Dog.
Yes.
Where it's what is it? Never change horses in midstream.
That's right. That's right. And so actually, when we were doing this, I asked you, as I said, as a sidecar conversation, just a little, little extra, to come up with, what did I tell you? 3?
Yep, I got them.
Okay. So 3 of these, and I think they could be either TV shows or commercials that we get like just a taste of that are part of a fictional world, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to give me your first one?
Yes. First one I'm going with is Yo Teach from Jason Schwartzman on Funny People. The TV show that Jason Schwartzman gets on Funny People. It's like his roommate.
Really good one.
Yo Teach. And it's all, and like Bo Burnham is the like the dumb jock who can't. And there's like MC Shakespeare and DJ Shakespeare. Anyway, amazing. So that was the first. That was the first one that came to my mind.
That was the first one that popped in your mind.
Jason Schwartzman nails that role.
I gotta go. My first one is Bill Murray's Big Brother commercial in Kingpin, where he's like it's always the hot chicks, and he's like, and she hikes him the football, and he's like, and you see her like the side of her panties strap like go whoop, bap, and he goes
deeper, Jonathan. It's a tough world.
I thought that was the first one I thought of, was his Big Brother commercial.
Next one I have is the Soul Glow commercial from Coming to America.
Yeah,
I think that is a must. And then my last one was Al Pacino from Tropic Thunder. And the Booty Sweat energy drink and busting out energy bar.
Oh my god. Okay, my last two. My number 2 is Jim Cunningham's Cunning Visions from Donnie Darko. The infomercial, the Jim Cunningham infomercial.
I wish I would have thought of that.
Does. It's so bad. And the fact that they plant that kid, like the kid is in the video where he's like, I'm not afraid anymore. And then he's actually in the audience later and you're like, wait a minute, it's a plant. He's an actor. And then my third one that made me, I had to go and watch it after I thought of it. I was laying in bed and I woke Abby up because I was laughing so hard because it's so good, is Philip Seymour Hoffman's mattress commercial from Punch Drunk Love.
Damn it. That is so good. I forgot about that.
He's playing the guitar. He's like, "Hey, come on down!" And it was filmed in Salt Lake. It was filmed like right down the street. But he falls off. He bounces off those mattresses and lands face down so hard.
That has to be him, right?
It totally is. It's one shot. And I was like,
amazing.
"Is the ground fake?" And I'm like, "I don't think it is. He must have just had some padding and went for it."
Oh my god!
All right, so that's a good little sidecar. Good little sidecar.
I'm jealous of that. But we get to this point in the movie here where he basically is going through the world through the city like a superhero, right? I mean, he's going and
totally
saving people's lives and
the music, right?
He stops the rape scene where he shoots in between the girl's legs. Oh my!
Now
God.
I don't want to derail us too much with a second sidecar, but have you ever seen the video that's called Robocop shoots the guy in the dick? Have you seen this on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Okay. You're going to need to watch it after, and everybody should go and watch it. I want to, if you just put in YouTube, like Robocop shoots the guy in the dick, it's like they start with the same premise, but then it's just like multiple people getting shot in the dick. And then it's like, it's totally not safe for work because it's like showing fake dicks, like exploding. It just goes and goes and goes, and it's super funny. But in the very beginning of it, you're like, is this the same footage? Because it seems pretty close. And then it just goes to ridiculous levels. So you got to check that out.
Your move, creep.
You need to be taken to a rape crisis center, right? I just like all those little bits and pieces, again, show like what's missing by having a robot as your cop, right?
I love that they're negotiating the cruise control with the terrorist as the distraction, and this mayor takes over.
Well, and
yeah,
again,
cruise control.
To go to the commercials again, it's the 3000 SUX, right? The sucks.
We also get another injection here of the Nukem game commercial.
Yes.
Just, again, going into the tropes, not the tropes, but kind of his trademark as a director. As going back to this stuff.
Well, and again, it was unlike something that you had ever seen at the time. Like I was trying to think of like anything else around that time, and I guess it's like you had some stuff, but everything I'm thinking of lands directly into humor. I was thinking of like, we see similar kind of stuff in something like UHF, but it's a total comedy, right? And so to have it in something like this, where the rest of this movie tonally is way closer to something like Commando, and so you're just like,
totally
right? And so you're like, it'd be so weird for Commando, more so than just a couple of one-liners, to literally have humor on the level of something like UHF. You'd be like, what is happening here? And so I don't know if that's just true. Like him coming from a different country and sort of mashing all the things together and not feeling like that was a big risk. I don't know. It's really interesting, you know?
I don't feel like it was a risk. I like you said, I think it injects a great amount of humor into it. And I don't know. This movie's great. This movie's so fun to watch. Even though I don't like the bad guys, it's still fun watching them chase them down. Once I get past the campiness of that, like, it's a blast of a movie.
But boy, it starts to get into some really interesting territory when you're looking at, you know, after he busts a cocaine like distribution center that, like, first of all, whoever worked out like the diagnostic adjustment on where the cocaine is pouring into the vases should get fired, because whoever that guy was, he's the same guy that pours the chocolate into the little chocolate egg and it gets all over the place. You're like, that guy's getting fucking fired. There's a lot of cocaine on the floor. You're like, that's probably not good. So anyway, he comes in And
this is Kurtwood Smith's like lab, though, right? This is his cocaine dungeon or whatever it is. Isn't that his?
No, he's gonna get it from the other guy, and there's like a tense scene where
they're negotiating. Yeah. That's what it was. They're negotiating.
And then RoboCop just comes in and blows the place all to hell, and he beats the shit out of Boddicker, and at that point, Boddicker immediately gives up Dick Jones. Right? He's just covered in blood, and he gives up Dick Jones, and so Murphy goes there. He goes to OCP, and that's when we learn about what Directive 4 is. Right? And I love this as a story device this is really, you think about it, this is actually so sophisticated of a concept, which is if you had the ability to create robot police and they were made by a corporation, what would be the first thing that you would bury into their code, right? You can't arrest any of us. You can't investigate any of us. You can't look at any of us, right? So that moment where we see that and there's an immediate shutdown of Dick Jones, it's just like that, first of all, really threw me to this place of like, wow, that is like a really interesting sort of story device anyway on its own.
They're covering their asses.
And then we get a great fight between Ed 209 and Robocop. It's just, man, I love stop motion effects so much more than CGI. Because again, and this goes back to when we talked about Total Recall, I don't care that it looks real. We're so far past that. Does it look cool? And Ed 209 looks so cool.
And he falls down the stairs.
That is the best joke. That is the best joke.
And they built those stairs, right? Those tiny stairs.
Yeah.
To have that happen, to have him fall down them.
Yep.
Anyways, I agree with you. I think especially in an era in the 80s where, special effects were a pretty rare thing for the most part. I mean, people tried it, but it mostly looked bad. And I don't know. So, I totally agree. The stop motion effects is always good, especially when Bottin's heading it off.
Totally. The next thing that we get here, I thought, was another really, and it reminded me of the beginning when I was talking about the body armor that the cops wear. When, what does Dick Jones do while Ed 209 and Robocop are fighting? He calls the OCP cops, right? Mm-hmm. And the regular cops show up also, but we get this great standoff with Robocop coming out, and you have a handful of regular police officers in their blues, right? And then next to them are all the OCP corporate cops that are in black tactical military gear with fully automatic weapons. And again, not to put too fine a point on it, but it totally made me think about Portland, Oregon last month when we saw, basically like these tactical secret police come out, firing tear gas at people in Portland. And I was just like, whoa, that's again, like kind of like when we did V for Vendetta, I was like, ooh, like kind of gave me bad shivers, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's really interesting that the corporate officers are the ones that are better armed. The corporate officers are the ones who have better gear and have their marching orders, right? Like we've been told to fire on sight, and the other cops are like, he's a cop, and they're like, he's property. And you just go, wow, this suddenly is not just a superhero movie, right? It suddenly has these layers.
Yeah, I wouldn't even thought of this as a superhero movie in the first place. There's superhero elements to it, I think.
Right.
But for the most part, not at all. This is way layered, gets way deep. You kind of skipped over that, him having these flashbacks and, it basically induces an escape, and he escapes and kind of finds out about his past life, and it's starting to catch up with him. It goes to his old address. And again, I said this with Total Recall as well, and Starship Troopers, but like he nails the technology here. This, even though this is probably a little out there, but like even the real estate agent, when he walks into the house that's for sale, which is his old house, and he kind of goes through and reminisces, but like something like that, I'm like, I could totally see that.
Totally.
It's completely futuristic and perfect and real. And I don't know, there's this whole scene is really interesting because this is really the most we found out about his life at all with Murphy.
Totally.
And they kind of do this weird thing where you get this clip I guess they put it closer to the beginning now that I think about it. But this like he walks into his bedroom and his wife's like, "Hey, I got to tell you something. Like something's like she's gonna reveal something bad to him." And then we get to the scene in the house, and it ends up being "I love you" or something like cute, and you're just like, "Wait, so was his life even bad?" Like, we don't even know. Like, they just really barely pepper it in through the whole movie. Really interesting that they don't give us a lot there. I kind of wish we had more, but it's still intriguing and fun.
Well, I like that it's almost like we only are given as much as later he's given, which are these, like, nuggets that don't necessarily mean anything, right? Like, I really got to tell you something. I love you, right? And that he's walking through the house trying to figure these things out, right? And I would say that, like, you know, even though you mentioned that the villains here were cartoonish, I love this scene that we get where Dick Jones convinces Boddicker to go and kill Robocop. Because it's the kind of scene that a movie like this could gloss over, right? And in fact, you even think about it, it's like Total Recall did the same thing. Michael Ironside's character could just be the henchman bad guy, but instead we get these moments between him and Cohagen where you can see the power struggle happening. So this scene where Boddicker actually goes to Dick Jones' office. I love it. His face is all cut up. He's so busted up. And he's like asking the total mom-looking receptionist, "What are you doing later?" And he like takes his gum out and puts it on her thing. He's like, "You can keep that." You know, you're just like,
so
who are you charming? But then when he goes in and they sit down next to each other, the fact that we see Jones basically entice Boddicker by saying, "Look, we just got green-lighted to start Delta City. All the people that are going to be building it, they're going to want hookers and they're going to want drugs." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And you go, that makes perfect sense for us too. And you didn't need to have any of that, right? You could have had just Dick Jones pounding on his desk saying, "Find the Robocop and kill him." But instead, it's like it gives us this motivation for why these characters are willing to risk their lives again. And I just like, it's those levels of texture and thought put into it that are part of what make this movie so great.
I agree that and like you wouldn't normally think that something like that would work out. You know, he's out for revenge, and hey, let's just include the mafia.
Yeah, sure, why not? Why not? They want revenge too. Everybody wants revenge against the Robocop, but instead it's like those little strings. Yeah.
Let me ask you a technical question here about this movie: can Robocop be shot in his exposed face? Or is that just like metal underneath too? Like there's some human to him still, but he never gets shot there. He has all this other productive gear.
Everywhere else, yeah.
Like 50 times.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You know, earlier when they're doing the flashback stuff, where it's from his POV and they're operating on him, they have that conversation about whether or not to save his leg. And I always thought this was really interesting because Bob says he signed his paperwork over. He's company property, which means that at some point when they had all signed up to become cops for that particular precinct, they had signed over their rights as people, right? I mean, his wife thinks he's dead, right? Everybody thinks he's dead. And so you just go, all right, so they lost the leg. In fact, they were excited to lose the leg because they could make another robot leg. So you go, yeah, so is that, I mean, did they just keep his skull? And if so, why? Why did they even need part human? I don't know why they needed a part human at all. I mean, you know, in Robocop 2, the character of Kane, which is played by oh no, now I can't think of his name. He plays the Tooth Fairy in the original Manhunter.
Yes.
Tom Noonan.
Yes.
Tom Noonan. He also plays Frankenstein in the Monster Squad. Tom Noonan, fantastic character actor. He plays the bad guy in the second RoboCop, and he actually has his entire entity removed, and just his brain, just his entity, is put into basically Ed 209 style robot. But so that way he doesn't even have a face that can be shot. It's just his. Of course, he's also like a drug dealer, so I don't know why you would do that. Let's make a super powerful robot drug dealer. Sounds like a great plan.
Well, I mean, even Robocop, after he shoots up an entire factory, says, "I'm here to uphold the law." I'm just like, well,
To be fair, unless I mean, who knows?
Body count.
Maybe old Detroit, it's like martial law now. It's like Judge Dredd. You can just be like, "Oh, selling cocaine. Guess all of you guys have to die."
More than anything, I just feel bad for Murphy. Like, this poor guy just can't catch a break. Keeps getting shot up. He already got killed once. He's getting shot up again. Like, hasn't been put through hell already.
I want that to be that's the tagline I want for the poster. Is I want it to say RoboCop, and then like the tagline says, "He used to be a guy. This poor dude can't catch a break." Look at him now. He looks like
a guy.
He looks like a trash compactor. This poor guy can't. He's had a terrible week.
Yeah, you could recut that trailer pretty easily to have it be like a Murphy just moved and is new in town.
He's like, all he wants to do is impress his son. Will he get a chance? Well, let's give him a hand. And then his hand fucking explodes. Oh, no.
And then, you get all this epic action where the stupid bad guys are just playing with hand cannons in the streets after the cops go on strike. And,
Yep.
And nothing fancy, just kill him.
Yep.
I love also that earlier in the movie, oh gosh, what's the guy from ER's name? I forgot his name. The redheaded bad guy. Yes, he makes fun of the kid like studying algebra at the gas station.
Right.
Like, college boy.
Yeah.
But we do get a toxic waste death, which is a pretty superhero thing to happen.
And I feel like that is legendary, at least in my childhood. That moment is legendary in the same way that something like Three Boobs and Total Recall is, where you're like,
yep,
there's no reason for it to be there. You didn't need it. Any lesser movie would just have people get blown up in cars. But no, we get to see a man melted alive and then explode like a bag of split pea soup when he gets hit by a car. It's fantastic.
It's so good.
Yeah, and you wouldn't need to do it, but God, I'm so glad they did.
I kind of saw James Cameron was inspired by this for T2 a little bit, maybe. Like, I saw a little bit of elements of that.
Oh, definitely. I feel like I ask this all the time. When was Aliens? Was Aliens before this?
I think it was, because the first Alien was 1979, so I would think it was before that.
Oh, yeah, I think it was like 1985, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that too. The second Aliens movie. And at the point when I saw the movie, the Joker had already fell in the vat of acid too, in the first Tim Burton Batman movie.
Sure. So there was a lot. I mean, boy.
A lot of vats of acid.
Vats of acid were around in the 80s, the way that quicksand and gorilla suits were around in the 70s.
Quicksand. Oh my God, that's so good. You know what? Clarence, I'll give him this. He won't fucking die. He just won't.
No.
He's that bad guy that just keeps coming back.
Yeah. And when he finally does die, again, to reference Total Recall, he gets a, softball size hole in his neck. So that's pretty fantastic. Although in this movie doesn't show it.
That's true.
We see it in Total Recall, but we don't see it here. We just get that great goopy splatter of blood onto
they cut away.
Yeah, they cut away, which is
I
pretty
wonder
surprising for Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, I would imagine it has something more to do with MPAA than it
probably
does with him putting it. I'm sure there's a director's cut out there where you could find that. But love this movie.
It's called the hole in the neck, the hole in the neck version. That's how you know. That's how you know you're watching the one with the extra 3 minutes.
That's right. And what was it? The same thing in Basic Instinct. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's how you know you're watching the one, as if the ice pick goes through the nose.
Yep, that's the good one.
It's a great movie. It's a fantastic film.
I've had a bad experience with that, where you're like, oh, I have to have the unrated, uncut version of that DVD.
What did you do it with? What was the bad one?
The one that I did it with, I'm like, why? Was Team America. I waited. I worked at a movie store, and I was.
I know we both
this.
did. We both
That's
worked
right.
at a movie store.
And I couldn't wait till that came in so I could get it. And it finally came and I got it. I went home and watched it. And all it is puppets shitting on each other. And I'm just like, why did I care about this? Maybe I expected something different.
That's still better because it's you. I was worried it was going to be like, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Some like, oh no, there's a longer version of, Ameros Peros with more dead dogs in it. Or I don't, like,
Yeah. No, puppets shitting on each other was way worse than that.
Yeah, that is worse.
Anyways, still looking for the Terminator versus Robocop movie, but love this movie.
Yeah,
love
I mean,
Paul
that's
Verhoeven. We'll see how much I love him next week. But
I mean, that's the thing is it's but I feel like it all still fits.
It does. It totally fits.
It
I
all
think
fits.
his careless, scummy attitude kind of works for him a lot in the 90s, where, I don't know, it just, does it hold the test of time? Probably not. But I think with this festival, we captured the prime of his career with these 4 movies.
Although I am interested to see, we have had several people mention that
that's right.
His movies,
he's Dutch, right? Is
yeah,
that right?
and so the movies he made when he kind of like went back home to make them were really like are great films. And so I don't know. I'd be interested to check it out. Seems
Absolutely.
like tonally he took a huge shift. I think the last American movie he made was Hollow Man.
Yep.
And so then he kind of took this shift after that.
Yeah, in his later career, he has kind of gone to more foreign stuff again.
Drama. I think more drama than sort of like, this science fiction and action.
The campy sci-fi stuff, yeah. No, this was a fun fest. Let us know what you think of Paul Verhoeven in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say, your favorite Verhoeven movie that we didn't do, maybe.
Yeah.
Remember to like and subscribe in all the places and spaces. Thank you very much for listening. Please tune in next week and follow along with Showgirls Punishment Review. This is gonna be a good one.
Or don't follow along and just watch our review, and you could save yourself 2.5 hours.
That's a great point. You don't even need to see the movie.
I can't get those
just
back.
Put it in there.
I can't get those 2.5 hours back. It's called a deathbed regret.
Yeah, deathbed regrets. All right, we'll get into that next week. Thanks for
All right.
listening, everyone. We love you. Please subscribe.
Thanks, you guys. Okay, clap.
Yeah.
Well, we have to say it out loud. Jesus, you dumbass.
I know. 3, 2, 1.
1. God.
3. It's the Wayne's World.
Yeah.
2. You don't say the 2 or the 1.
And then you point. All right, you got a story for me?
So I had to delay a little bit because I was sitting on my table and I was kind of setting up the shot, focusing, all that stuff, and bam, the entire glass table exploded underneath me.
The glass shattered, exploded?
There's like a glass, so it's like a wood table, but it has this circular glass in the middle. Exploded. Luckily today I started a new diet, and it seems like the world is telling me I need to do that. But no, it was frightening. It scared the absolute shit out of me.
Oh yeah, were there like 5 million little pieces of glass?
Luckily, it was mostly big pieces. But
Really?
yeah.
That's really funny, actually, because most of the time that kind of safety glass is supposed to be in really a whole bunch of small pieces, and not big ones, so that you cut yourself on it.
Anyways,
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
clean it up. I'll clean it up after this.
Oh, it's still on the
I'm
ground.
No,
I didn't think so. I was like, that's weird that you would do that. You have kids.
No, yeah. I mean, dogs are just sniffing it. It should be fine though.
Yeah, they should be fine. You're like, hey, get.
No.
Well,
Serpico,
look,
no.
he won't do it twice. You know what I mean? He'll learn.